Coming up next, what happens when a band is forced to promote their new single without their record label's support or any kind of marketing money behind it? Well, today's multi-platinum artist had to do just that. So he decided to grab everyone's attention by writing a song so controversial that he wouldn't need any help with promotion. It's a really fascinating story from the 1970s about a song that was banned from an entertaining artist that we just don't see in today's culture as much anymore. The interview is coming up next on Professor of Rock. Hey, music junkies, Professor of Rock, always here to celebrate the greatest artists and the greatest songs of all time. So we have some really incredible interviews coming your way in 2022, a lot planned. Make sure that you subscribe below right now. Click the bell so that you know when those interviews drop. You're going to be excited. Also, be sure to look us up on Patreon. There you're going to find an exclusive catalog of content. And make sure to look at our new Vintage Year Collection shirts. Great selection honoring some amazing years in music and the artists that change our lives, the soundtrack of our lives. So it's time for another episode of our series, Revelations. This is where artists and bands give us a really unique insight into their greatest songs and albums and their lives. Today's edition is going to be great. It's from a true Renaissance man of pop culture. He's had success in about every element of entertainment, and he's a favorite of this community. We've had a couple of his interview pieces on, and you guys have loved them. What's she gonna do about him? Many have asked for more of this interview, so perhaps best known for writing and performing one of the greatest yacht rock classics of yesteryear. If you like Pina Coladas and getting caught in the... He had several other hits, and he went on to Broadway and has won several Tonys as a playwright. He's also a novelist, a TV writer. He's done everything. Today, we highlight a few of those moments, from drinking pina coladas and getting caught in the rain, where we'll plan our escape. And of course, our main story, how Rupert intentionally did something that would get him noticed in the music industry, most definitely. With their backs up against the wall and no label support, the 70s group The Buoys needed a hit. So Rupert wrote a song called Timothy for him. He had an idea to write a very, very controversial, even disturbing pop song. Radio stations everywhere tried to ban it. It only made it more popular. The story of this grisly adventure is coming up next from Rupert, along with some other tales. Now, before we go into this interview, I do want to thank our sponsor, Zenni Eyewear, the glasses that I wear every single day. Make sure that you go directly to Zenni.com after this video to design the best pair of frames that you'll ever wear, guaranteed. Take it from me. You choose the color, the shape, the size, and then you add features like blue blocks to protect your eyes from digital blue light. It's a game changer for sure. Here's Rupert Holmes with the story. Between 70 and 73, I understand that you wrote jingles and music material for so many different artists, varied artists. You know, Dolly Parton, Gene Pitney, The Platters, Wayne Newton, Barry Manilow, David Cassidy, Partridge Family, Echo Valley 26809.
You know, I actually, when I was like literally 19 years old, I was arranging for the Platters and the Drifters. And I was really excited to meet the Drifters, obviously, you know, the amazing records they made. And I walked into the room and said, God, it's so great to meet all of you. And I looked and they were all younger than I was. They had all been replaced. So I actually wrote the last chart record. I think by chart, we're being kind there. I think it went to like number 60 for the Drifters. And I arranged it too. It was called Black Silk. Black Silk and the Blue Bouquet. And I wrote that with Paul Vance. That was another one of those Paul Vance co-creations. But I was just grateful every day that the music business would let me in, that would let me ply my trade. I was honored to write the short and sassy shampoo theme for Dorothy Hamill, the figure skater.
Dorothy Hamill introduces the shampoo for short hair.
Union Dime Bank, the dime that starts with you. And one of my songs that Barry Manilow has recorded twice, called Studio Musician, started out as an American Airlines jingle that got canceled at the last minute. I happened to like the tune, and so I transformed it into this song about being a studio musician, and I think Barry took to it. So I did. There was no job in those first years I wouldn't do. I arranged the marching band arrangement of Oye Como Va. I did the piano arrangements for the Charlie Pride songbook. Did You Think to Pray? Just any job I could do was what I was grateful for.
Rupert, you've established yourself as a composer of story songs, like we've said, and the themes of your stories over the years have been widely varied. I want to ask you about one of the craziest stories of 70s pop lore, the unlikely top 40 hits, Timothy, which is about three friends getting stuck in a mine, and the results are cannibalism to survive. This is a song that you wrote, and even despite being that dark and controversial, it went to number 17 in 71. Yeah. Tell me about that.
Well, first of all, it's probably the finest song about cannibalism ever written. Timothy, where on earth? I say that feeling fairly safe about that. You know, let me tell you the truth. I'm actually I hate to own up to this. I'm proud of that young man that I was who came up with a way to get noticed in the business. And what happened was very simple. I had a friend who was a junior engineer at Scepter Records, and he got a group signed to Scepter as a favor. You know, it was like, I've got a group, I'll produce them on the weekends in the studio, it won't cost you anything. And they said, okay, we'll give you a two single deal. You can make 2 45s. He made 1 45, and I had written it, and it didn't chart. Nothing happened to it. And he said, well, now I'm stuck. I have one more shot at the plate with this group. The group was called the Buoys. They were out of Wilkes-Barre, Pennsylvania. They were a real group. He said, what do I do? I said to him, all of 20 years old, I said, I think you should have them record a song that gets banned. And he said, why? I'm trying to get them noticed. I said, oh, yeah. I said, but if it gets banned, there will be controversy. You can go to another label and say, this is that. They would have had a hit, but their record was banned. This is a very controversial group. And he said, you know, can you write a song that would get banned? I said, I'll do. And my policy at that time was to say yes to absolutely everything and then worry about how I would do it. So I said, sure. Well, at the time I was working on an arrangement of 16 tons for an artist named Andy Kim. He never recorded it, but I was working on the arrangement. And I had a guitar feel going. I usually wrote at the piano, but I also play guitar. And I was kind of playing a kind of Creedence Clearwater feel on the guitar. So I was working on 16 tons, and in the next room on the TV was a cooking show called The Galloping Gourmet with Graham Kerr. This is the 70s.
And it's called Muscatel, and you drink it from this spout.
And he's on in the other room, and I'm singing the lyrics to 16 tons, which went, some people say a man is made out of mud. A coal man's made out of muscle and blood. Muscle and blood and skin and bones.
Made out of muscle and blood and skin and bone.
It sounds kind of like a recipe. Muscle and blood and skin and bones, bake in a moderate oven, topped with Miracle Whip. And I thought, wait a second. Cannibalism during a mining disaster. That could get banned, but it's not about drugs. And it's not about sex, because those things will just be off. They won't even play it. I said, this could get its toe in the door. And so I wrote a song, completely contrived, about 3 boys trapped in a mine. And when they're pulled free, they don't know what happened to one of them, but they know they're not hungry anymore. And it was called Timothy. And it went up the chart like 2 digits a week. It would go from 99 to 96. And what was happening was radio stations would play it because it had a good groove, had a good feel, and the singer was good. But then they would listen to the record and slowly realize what it was about. They would pull it off the air. The kids would call in and say, why aren't you playing that record? They say, because it's disgusting. You shouldn't be listening to that. It's about cannibalism. Well, all you have to do is tell a kid something's disgusting and he shouldn't be listening to it, and he'll want to hear it.
Of course.
So the record climbed the charts, and it was my first top 20 song as a songwriter. I'm actually kind of proud. I didn't know anyone in the music business except pretty much this junior engineer. It would be kind of like a baked bean in a can of Campbell's baked beans, getting the world to notice him without opening the can. It was just a matter of mind over matter. It was completely calculated. People say, what kind of strange, sick guy is Rupert Holmes to write a song about cannibalism? I wasn't a strange, sick guy. I was a hungry guy in his 20s trying to get into the business that I love. And I did it with some ingenuity and the help of a lot of teenagers who wanted to hear something that they shouldn't be listening to.
Well, some of the lyrics, I mean, Timothy, where on earth did you go? Oh, I think I know.
Where did you go? Why? God, we never actually say that he was eating.
Where on earth did you go, Timothy?
It's all a matter of just, I know I did something terrible. I don't know what it is.
The line about hungry as hell, and Joe said he would sell his soul for just a piece of meat.
Just a piece of meat.
That's heavy. The group The Glass Prism was your first choice to record Timothy, and then you selected the Buoys.
I've read that, and it's my pleasure on your show to say that's absolutely not true. As it happened, if there's any confusion, it would be that one of the members of the Buoys was, I think, at one time in Glass Prism. But I wrote that song to order for that junior engineer at Scepter Records. His name was Michael Wright. I wrote it specifically to be a way that the Buoys could get noticed with their last gasp single. And by the way, the interesting thing is Scepter Records at the time was trying to get a record by an artist named Beverly Bremmers onto the charts. And the promotion men kept coming to the meeting saying, we can't get on that station. They've gone on some record called Timothy. They didn't even know the record was on their own label.
Wow.
So I did not write it for the Glass Prism, and it was never offered to them. It was written specifically for the Buoys for the shameless, self-serving purposes that I just described to you.
It's funny that there's so many stories that have been told over the years. I mean, when I was a kid, growing up late 70s and the 80s as well, listening to Top 40 radio. And to this day, I find out all of these urban legends that I learned about are just untrue. And it's fun to find out what the real story is.
Yeah, I know. I read it. There's also, I noticed on Wikipedia, there's an account that I give in quotes about how Escape, the Pina Colada song, got recorded. And they're not my words. And I didn't say that. And I happened to be there, by the way, at the time. And I know what really did happen. So it's amazing how sometimes people say, no, you're remembering it wrong. I'll say, no, I've got a really good memory and I was there and I know what I ordered from the Chinese restaurant the day I recorded it. Believe me, I would have actually been more excited if the Glass Prism was recording it because they had already, I think, had a hit by that point. I'm not sure, but they certainly had but no, I wrote Timothy specifically for Michael Wright, producer, to be sung by Bill Kelly of the Buoys, and I stood in the studio with him, and he had a new string on his guitar, and the E string kept going out of tune as he was strumming this vigorous strum. So as he was recording it, I was standing at the guitar and I was turning the tuning peg of the E. Every time it started to go out of tune in the middle of the take, I would just tune it just slightly to keep it back in tune. Yeah. So all kinds of details that you remember.
In 1979, you released your fifth studio album, Partners in Crime. And from that breakthrough album came the mega smash, Escape, the Pina Colada song.
If you like pina coladas and getting caught in the
Last song to hit number one on the Billboard Hot 100 in the 70s. Not only was it number one here, but it was also Australia, Canada, Japan. I love this song, and I want to jump into it. Another story song that you wrote, and it could have been just relegated to being just a clever novelty song, but it ended up becoming like a pop culture phenomenon. My kids love that song. People have really connected to this song over the years. And it's what I love about the song is It's a story song is really in 3 acts. Every verse, it furthers the story in the cinematic vein that is through this song. And the placeholder title for the song I always read was People Need Other People. Tell me how that song came about.
Most of the time when I write a story song, I say, okay, if you were in that situation that you've just invented, what would then probably happen? So that it feels like it's really happening to me. So I thought, what would happen to you if you ever answered one of those ads? And I started to write this lyric. And the chorus began, if you like Humphrey Bogart and getting caught in the rain.
He's looking at you, kid.
I go to the studio the next day. So I'm about to record this song. My guitar player, Dean Balin, is with me in the studio because whatever I do when I'm done vocally, we're now going to have to also create some stuff to fill the instrumental breaks in this empty track that we have, this very bare track. And I thought, this is a story song with a twist ending. And what I was nervous about was that you could see the twist coming too soon. I have this lyric that I've typed out. I have never actually sung the song out loud. I've only read it out loud, but I've never sung it to the track. And I look at the lyric and it says, if you like Humphrey Bogart, and I say, just as I'm about to sing it, I think, Humphrey Bogart is a black and white image. That's noir. I said, this couple in the story, they're not noir. They're looking for something. They want escape. They want to go to the islands. And I thought about the fact that when you go on a vacation to the Caribbean, the first day you're on the beach, you would never order a Budweiser. Because you're on vacation. You want to order something that comes in a hollowed out pineapple, or if it could be blue with parasols, and that would be great. What are those drinks? What are the escape drinks? Mai Tai, daiquiri, Pina Colada. I had never had a Pina Colada in my entire life. And I said, if you like Humphrey Bogart, no. If you like I added an extra 8th note and went, if you like Pina Coladas. I said, that actually works pretty well. Pina Colada. So that's what I'll do.
If you like pina coladas.
Well, I had conjured up this idea of the islands and this Pina Coladas. I said, this break that we do, this instrumental break, it's got to be like a mini vacation. It's got to sound like we're in the islands. The first thing we did was this line, da 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 da, but it had to have a soaring sound to it. Really above the clouds. Then I had him add a sliding guitar, like a Hawaiian guitar, da 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 da, as if it's like what you hear at a luau. Okay, then I added some flutes on a synthesizer. I added a little kind of alto flute parts to kind of make it sound kind of ethereal. And then I got my synthesizer to make the sound of surf. And I rolled some surf across the record in the middle of the instrumental break. So if you listen carefully, you'll hear da-da-da-da-da, da-da-da, like that. And pretty soon we had this very, very lustrous and kind of Martin Denny Paradise Hawaiian style. And basically, I realized had I kept the words Humphrey Bogart, I would never have made that break. The break was inspired by that decision I made in 10 seconds before I sang the song to not say Humphrey Bogart and to say Pina Colada. And it sends terror down my spine to think, if you hadn't made a Pina Colada in that impulsively, that decision happened, you wouldn't have made that break. The record wouldn't have been as entertaining. What happens in the song is that you get these three little, I was very pleased that you said the story's kind of in 3 acts. In between those 3 acts are 3 little vacations that you get orally. And then you get back to the narrator, and the narrator is having the fun of telling the story for the first time.
Where we'll plan our escape.
And as I get old, it's quite a wonderful thing to happen in my life. It really is. Yeah. So I could tell you lots of moments, but I think this overall experience of now singing it and it meaning something over the course of 40 years to literally millions of people is an extraordinary privilege and joy.
Yes, I like pina coladas and getting caught in the
Hey, leave us a comment about Rupert Holmes. He's such an elegant and entertaining guy. Tell us your memories of these songs, and also what are some other twisted songs, disturbing songs, sure, in the comments below. And make sure to subscribe below if you want to be a part of our community. Hit the bell so you always know when our new stuff comes out. Till next time, 3 chords and the truth, my friend.